Hi guys, you got me again, and I'm doing another Hornby Thomas and Friends unboxing review. This one, however, is arguably one of the most special items ever to be made in the Thomas and Friends Hornby range, and when I got this, honestly, I was astounded at just how wonderfully this thing had been packaged, and it really did give me the feeling that this was an item to hold on forever. And here we go. It is the Hornby Royal Mail Thomas and Friends stamp collection of James the Red Engine. I mean, wow, I did not expect it to look like this. I always knew the box was rather large for just one engine, but oh my word, wow, Hornby really knew what they were doing. I mean, this is just absolutely fantastic. They also did this with the Royal Mail, Great Britain's postage service, and I worked for the Royal Mail, so for me, I actually, for me to have an exclusive Royal Mail item as well that's been done in partnership with Hornby, it feels quite sweet actually. I'm quite proud of the work that I did at the Royal Mail, and I also work on the trains as well in London, so for me, best of both worlds really. So it is a very big box, it's huge. Only on the back, just licensing information in different languages, and all that kind of stuff. But here we go. Let's unbox this now. I'm just going to very gently lift the top off. And what impressed me straight away was the foam padding right at the start. I just thought there would be the model and that's it. No, they've actually gone to town and put in all the protective bells and whistles for an item that is so iconic. And it's brilliant they've done that, because this item back in the day cost about £200 when it was released in 2011. Not really worth the price, hence I never bought it at the time. So what greets us and what do we get for our money? It's very expensive, so it better be worth it. Right, we get a pamphlet explaining all the things that we need to do to service our Hornby James. Remember, it's a Hornby Thomas model, so it's done in the old school style of the motor and the tender. And in case you were ever wondering, these Hornby Thomas models, at least of James, have a Ringfield motor, and I cannot stand Ringfield motors. Can't stand them. And do you know why? Because they are impossible to service. They're absolutely impossible to service. The Hogwarts Express has one as well, at least the original one. Don't bother servicing it, just run the model and, with a little bit of modelling oil, and that's it. Don't bother, just don't. So we get this little collector's card here. You can see mine is a limited edition of 561 out of 1,000 that were ever made. So, not that many. And this is lovely that it explains that Hornby and Royal Mail have done a little partnership deal with 3 Thomas and Friends characters. I'm only going to pause it here now. You guys can all read it. I'm not going to read it out for you, so you can read that when you want to. There is, however, one problem, and that is something that I cannot believe Hornby actually didn't even go through. The person who did the copyright text on here, I cannot believe that they just weren't proofreading. Now, I'm not a Thomas and Friends, historical guru, but that is not how you spell Reverend W. Awdry. That is not how you spell the name of the man who, created Thomas and Friends, or Thomas the Tank Engine. And I just cannot believe that they have made that mistake. It's, for something that is a Hornby product, you'd at least expect the copy text to be, all correct, but no. But there you go. There is something that's a little bit interesting there. While we're on the topic of spelling errors, if I have a look on the back, and I did just notice this, Hit Entertainment is not spelt like that, but they got it correct on the line above. So technically, They haven't even credited the correct company there. I do not even understand how they've done that. I just don't. It's embarrassing. Utterly embarrassing, if you ask me. But there you go. Another interesting little bit of trivia for you. Here's the souvenir first day cover that you get. You get Thomas, Percy and James. They were the only engines ever released in the Royal Mail exclusive partnership with Hornby. And it does say 2011. I'm not sure if you can see that. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. 2011 Ghislaine Thomas Limited. Obviously I've got James. I am looking at getting Thomas. Percy, it doesn't appeal to me, just doesn't. So you can see it's appropriately franked. It says souvenir copy, the 1st of July 2011, Hornby, Margate, Kent, and I believe that's a Flying Scotsman on there, and that's rather nice. And there you go, there's James's stamp as well for you. I believe that was from the season 8 episode, James Gets a New Coat, or something like that. Very lackluster episode, but it's nice. They've done it very well. They've chosen a good image, nice framing and everything, but it's a very oblong stamp, I've got to say. The back is just plain and white, but it is a rather nice thing to have. And no, I won't be taking this out of the package. I'm not a stamp collector, but this is something that is special. And I do recognise the value, so I'm just going to keep it inside its little plastic sleeve there. Now, on to the main event. Here we go. We have got James himself, and you can see just how much polystyrene they actually packed. So they put 2 extra sort of letterbox fillers in, if you will, no pun intended, just to help puff out the box. Personally, I don't think they needed to, really. They could have just done something different with it, but there you go. We do get a detail pack. I'm just going to touch on that before I forget, because I know I'm going to forget. And we get some lamp irons to put in on James's running plate and some brake pipes. So that's rather cool. I'll be fitting those in later. Now, I really don't know how I'm going to do this, so this might get a little bit messy in regards of taking James out. So I'm just going to try and grab it. Okay. Because it's one of those old style packagings where you have a hole and you push it from the back. There we go. Alrighty then. Well, there you go. That's the Ringfield motor inside there, and James is just a freewheeling engine. We're going to get into all of that, don't you worry. There we are. Cool. Petrified about breaking that thing, honestly. So give me a second to tidy this all away, and then we're going to focus on the main event, the main engine himself. All right, cool. So here we are. Let's look at James first, shall we? This is not the most recent edition of Hornby James. This is the edition that I knew growing up. So his paint is slightly darker, and he has still got his old style face, which I think is probably the best example of that. You can see it's a, pretty much an exact copy of what you saw on the stamp. It's his iconic big smiling face with the crow's feet on either side of his eyes. And again, you can see the vacant spaces on the running plate to add in all the little bits and bobs and bells and whistles to give him that extra bit of detail. It is obviously a Thomas Hornby model. It is quite basic, but they do have a nice number of rivets on James's model. Nice amount of rivets at the bottom of the smoke box, by the front splasher, and going all the way up around the first gold stripe of the boiler band. And quite a nice selection on his cab as well, actually. The dome is fantastic. I love it. Lovely and shiny. And the handrails are stunningly painted. You can see, though, if you've never owned a Hornby James, just how close James is to his original drawings when he first appeared in James the Red Engine in his debut book in the Railway series. And for those who are the keen eyes, you can see just how close James is to a Fowler 060 LMS tender engine that used to work on the Midland and London, Midlands and Scottish railways. They've just extended the running plate, really, and James's whole body is virtually, even the cab is a carbon copy of the old Hornby Trying edition, and if you look that up, you'll know exactly what I mean. Again, the only difference is James's running plate. Like all Hornby models, no sprung buffers, that's fine. It's just a screw that holds in the front pony truck. Just one little screw there. But it's been done very beautifully, I must say. I prefer this longer, elongated version of James. I appreciate that his TV model is quite squashy, but I like the more realistic look, I really do, or the more Railway series look, if you will. The cab is shockingly basic, there's absolutely nothing in there. It's just a vacant space. With a smoke box door and a couple of dials, that's it. It is a free rolling engine. That's all there is to it. And on the other side, of course, you can see his reverser. That should be painted in my opinion, but there you go, never mind. And a few other moulding bits of detail. Pretty much the same otherwise. You can see they've not done James's whistle as per the TV series. They've done it as per his real life basis. So we've got his little safety valves there, and his whistle itself isn't painted. Interesting. Now that I've noticed that, it's actually not brilliant. But I've wanted a Hornby James for donkey's years, and I've finally got a Hornby James, and it's just wonderful. And the old edition as well that I knew growing up. I respect that Hornby had to update the old edition, and with a new coat of paint and a slightly newer face. In the last few years, that the Thomas and the Hornby range were within existence, but I knew this one when I was a kid. Of course, I'm going to be very nostalgic over it. So we'll put James over here, and we will get to his detail pack fitting in a moment. This is the Ringfield motor, very heavy, very, very heavy. The traction tyres are all on this one side here that you can see up on the top set. They're not on either side. Interesting, I didn't know that. That's probably quite common with a lot of other Thomas Hornby trains, but there you go. As such, to accommodate the motor, the coal load is quite high, but I suppose that's fine. It's not going to upset anyone that much, I suppose. But yes, again, very old school. This is a tender-driven locomotive. Pretty much a thing of the past now. Hornby really do make them all loco-driven now, at least most of their tender engines. But Hornby, honestly championed with their Thomas Hornby range in the case of less is more. They very seldom changed anything on the Hornby James model. And you know what? They had something that worked, and they just went with it. Got lots of spaces for the lamp irons on the back and step ladders, so they've done some nice detail there. They've done some very nice detail there. I'm impressed. Got the classic hook that just fits into the loop coupling. Very nicely done there. And you can see his tender detail. Nice tender detail there. Perfect. Okay, so give me a second and we're going to do James's fitting in a moment. So you can now see I fitted James's lamp irons and his brake pipes, and it does genuinely make him look a lot more complete. Yes, very nice, very, very nice. Okay, cool. So we've got James now on the layout. I would give him some trucks, but I don't think that's very fair to do so. So I've given him my Bachmann LMS Blood and Custard Inspector's Saloon. I think that would be more apt for him. Hopefully his test run will go better than Duck's. Let's have a look and see.